The most dangerous people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who openly attack you. They're the ones who smile to your face while slowly poisoning your peace of mind. The ones who chip away at your confidence, one subtle comment at a time. The ones who can make you doubt yourself without ever raising their voice. And here's the truth nobody likes to admit. Toxic people don't just show up in obvious ways. They slip in quietly, wearing the mask of a friend, a coworker, sometimes even family. They can be charming. They can make you laugh. And for a while, you might not even realize the damage they're doing. Until one day you wake up and you're drained, second-guessing yourself, and wondering why you don't feel like you anymore. Think about this for a second. How many times have you walked away from a conversation feeling smaller than you did when it started? How many times have you bitten your tongue to keep the peace, but deep down you knew the peace you were keeping wasn't yours? How many nights have you replayed someone's words over and over, trying to figure out if you were overreacting, or if they were just that skilled at making you feel wrong for protecting yourself? That's not an accident, that's strategy. Toxic people thrive in the space between your awareness and your action. If they can get you to doubt your instincts, they've already taken control. But here's the good news, they only win if you let them. And the smartest way to deal with toxic people isn't about fighting them, proving them wrong, or convincing them to change. It's about learning how to make them irrelevant in your life without losing your own power in the process. By the time we're done here, you'll know exactly how to spot them, how to protect your energy, and how to walk away without looking back. Not because you're weak, but because you've learned that some battles aren't worth your time, and some people don't deserve your access. And once you master this, they won't just lose control over you. They'll lose the ability to even reach you. Toxic people rarely introduce themselves as toxic. They don't walk into your life announcing, "Hey, I'm here to drain your energy and dismantle your self-worth." No, they come disguised. Sometimes they show up as friends who seem overly concerned about your life, but somehow always manage to make you feel less capable. Sometimes they're coworkers who frame their criticism as just being honest, yet their honesty only seems to tear you down, never build you up. And sometimes they're family members, bound to you by blood, but tied to you emotionally in ways that are anything but healthy. The first step in protecting yourself is to recognize the red flags before they sink their claws into your mind. You have to pay attention to how you feel after interacting with someone. Emotions don't lie. If every time you leave a conversation with a certain person, you feel smaller, more anxious, or like you're walking on eggshells, that's not a coincidence. That's a signal. It means their presence is costing you your peace. Some people are like emotional pickpockets. You don't even realize they've taken something from you until later, when you feel depleted. You start the day feeling fine, then a quick encounter with them leaves you irritable, self-critical, or confused. That's the work of a toxic influence. One of the earliest red flags is how they handle your boundaries. Healthy people respect when you say no or I can't. Toxic people hear those words as challenges, not limits. They'll push, guilt trip, or manipulate you into doing what they want anyway. You'll hear phrases like, "You're being too sensitive," "I was just joking," or "Wow, I thought we were closer than this." These aren't innocent comments. They're subtle tools designed to make you question your right to set boundaries. And once they train you to feel guilty for protecting yourself, you're much easier to control. Another sign to look for is inconsistency. With toxic people, their behavior is rarely stable. One moment they're warm and supportive, the next they're cold or dismissive without explanation. This unpredictability isn't random. It's a way to keep you off balance. When someone's mood swings determine how safe or valued you feel, you start walking on mental tightropes just to keep them happy. Over time, you learn to adapt to their storms instead of noticing that you're living in bad weather every day. Pay attention to how they handle your successes. This is a major giveaway. A toxic person will often downplay, dismiss, or redirect attention away from your wins. You tell them you got a promotion, and they say, "Must be nice, I wish I had your luck." You share a personal goal you've achieved, and they respond with something like, "That's good, but have you thought about doing more?" They can't celebrate you without making it about themselves or planting a seed of inadequacy in your mind. It's subtle, but over time it makes you feel like your victories are never enough. And then there's the way they use your vulnerabilities. Healthy people see your flaws and fears and protect them. Toxic people see them and weaponize them. They remember what you told them in confidence, not to support you, but to bring it up in moments when it will hurt the most. You might hear them say something like, "You've always been like this," or "No wonder you have trouble with relationships." The moment someone uses your personal pain to win an argument or gain leverage, that's a red flag screaming at full volume. It's also important to note that not all toxic people are malicious in the cartoon villain sense. Some are simply deeply insecure, and they project that insecurity onto others. They may not wake up thinking, "How can I sabotage this person today?" But their inability to deal with their own wounds means they unconsciously drag everyone around them into their chaos. That's why spotting the patterns matters more than labeling the person. Whether they mean it or not, if their presence repeatedly leaves you feeling worse, you need to address it. And here's the tricky part. Many people miss these red flags because they confuse toxicity with intensity. Just because someone's passionate, outspoken, or blunt doesn't make them toxic. What matters is intent and impact. Are they challenging you in ways that make you grow, or are they undermining you in ways that make you shrink? The difference can be subtle, but once you start paying attention, you'll see it clearly. You also have to listen to your instincts, even when your mind tries to rationalize them away. Your gut is often your first warning system. If you constantly feel uneasy, drained, or guarded around someone, that's data. Don't ignore it. Too often, people dismiss their discomfort because they don't want to seem mean or overly sensitive. But the smartest people understand that discomfort is a signal worth investigating. It doesn't always mean the other person is toxic, but it always means something in that dynamic needs attention. The earlier you recognize these red flags, the less damage they can do. Think of it like spotting smoke before it becomes a fire. If you notice the signs early, you can create distance, reinforce boundaries, or adjust your expectations before their behavior erodes your confidence or peace. Waiting until you're deeply entangled makes it much harder to step back, because by then you may have been conditioned to accept their behavior as normal. Recognizing toxicity isn't about becoming paranoid or labeling everyone in your life as dangerous. It's about sharpening your awareness so you can protect your mental and emotional well-being. The people you allow into your inner circle should challenge you to grow, not force you to constantly defend your worth. And once you learn to see these red flags for what they are, you stop asking, "Am I overreacting?" and start saying, "I see what this is, and I'm not letting it take root in my life." When you can spot the early signs, you no longer have to wait until you're broken to make a change. You act before the damage is done. And that's when you shift from being someone toxic people can manipulate to being someone they can't even touch. One of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn is that you cannot control another person's behavior, but you can control how much of yourself you give to them. Toxic people thrive on emotional access. They want your reactions, your energy, your time, your attention, because those are the things that fuel their influence over you. The more emotionally invested you are, the easier it is for them to pull your strings. The smartest way to break that power isn't by arguing louder, proving them wrong, or trying to fix them. It's by controlling how much of your heart and mind they're allowed to occupy. Think about it. When you react emotionally to every jab, every manipulation, every subtle insult, you're handing them control of your internal state. They've learned exactly which buttons to push to get you to explode, shut down, or start defending yourself. And here's the trap. The moment you start defending yourself to someone toxic, you've already given them the upper hand. You've shifted from living your life to living in reaction to theirs. That's exactly where they want you. The way out starts with understanding something simple but powerful. Not everyone deserves your emotional investment. Your energy is currency, and you need to start treating it like it's valuable. If someone keeps overdrawing from your emotional bank account without ever depositing anything positive, it's time to cut their access. That doesn't mean you become cold, heartless, or uncaring. It means you become strategic about where your emotions go. One of the most effective tools for this is emotional detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring about people altogether. It means you stop caring in a way that costs you your peace It's the ability to stay calm and grounded no matter what's happening in front of you. When a toxic person tries to bait you into a fight, detachment allows you to step back and think, I see what's happening here, and I'm not playing this game. You don't have to match their chaos with your own. Attachment is also about resisting the urge to personalize their behavior. Toxic people project their insecurities, fears, and unresolved pain onto others. When they insult you, belittle you, or try to manipulate you, it's almost never about you, it's about them. The moment you stop taking their actions personally, you strip them of their ability to wound you emotionally. This doesn't mean you excuse their behavior. It means you understand it's not a reflection of your worth. Another key part of controlling your emotional investment is breaking the habit of over-explaining yourself. Have you ever noticed how toxic people demand explanations for your decisions, but when they hurt you, they offer none? That's intentional. They want you to justify yourself because it puts you in a position of defense. The more you explain, the more room you give them to twist your words, poke holes in your reasoning, and make you doubt yourself. You owe no one endless explanations for protecting your own peace. A simple no or that doesn't work for me is enough. It's also important to stop feeding their drama. Toxic people often create crises to draw you in. They'll provoke emotional chaos, then stand back and watch you burn energy trying to solve it. They might blow small issues out of proportion or create problems where none exist, just to keep you engaged. When you stop rushing in to fix everything or calm them down, you stop giving them the satisfaction of knowing they can pull you into their storm. Let them sit in the mess they create. It's not your job to clean it up. Neutral responses are a powerful way to limit emotional investment. Instead of arguing, try short, calm statements. I see. That's your opinion. Okay? These give them nothing to latch onto. They may escalate at first because they're used to getting a reaction. But if you stay consistent, they'll eventually learn that you're no longer an easy target. Your neutrality sends a clear message. You don't control me. One of the most liberating things you can do is to recognize that you're not responsible for their happiness. Toxic people love to make you feel like it's your job to keep them content, validated, and supported, but their happiness is their responsibility, not yours. The moment you accept that, you take a huge step toward freedom. You stop walking on eggshells to keep them satisfied and start living in a way that keeps you healthy. Sometimes controlling your emotional investment means limiting access altogether. This doesn't always have to be a full cutoff, especially if the person is someone you can't completely remove from your life, like a coworker or family member. But you can control the frequency, duration, and depth of your interactions. Shorter conversations, less personal sharing, only engaging in neutral topics. Think of it like turning down the volume on their presence in your life until it's barely audible. There's also an internal shift that has to happen. You need to get comfortable with not being liked by everyone. Toxic people may dislike you the moment you stop feeding their needs. They may call you selfish, distant, or changed. And they're right. You have changed. You've stopped giving them the control they once had. This is not a loss. It's a win. If protecting yourself makes you selfish in their eyes, wear that label proudly. When you master the art of controlling your emotional investment, you'll notice something incredible. The same situations that once left you drained and frustrated will barely touch you. The same people who once had the power to ruin your day will become background noise. They'll still see their behavior for what it is, but it won't pierce you the way it used to. You'll respond from a place of clarity, not reactivity. And here's the final truth. Controlling your emotional investment isn't just about keeping toxic people out. It's about making room for the people and experiences that actually deserve your heart, your attention, and your energy. When you stop pouring yourself into people who take without giving back, you free up that energy to pour into those who uplift, encourage, and inspire you. And that's how you turn emotional self-control from a defense mechanism into a life-changing skill. Boundaries are not just rules you set for other people. They are a declaration of what you will and will not accept in your life. They are the invisible lines that protect your time, your energy, and your self-respect. Without them, you are open to invasion from anyone who decides to take advantage. With them, you make it clear that you value yourself enough to stand guard at the gates of your own life. And here's the reality. Toxic people will test those gates more than anyone else. They see boundaries as obstacles to be broken, not as lines to be respected. That's why yours need to be unshakable. The first step in building unshakable boundaries is to get crystal clear on what you stand for and what you will not tolerate. This is personal. Your boundaries might look different from someone else's, but they must be rooted in your values. If you value peace, then constant yelling, manipulation, or unnecessary drama is a deal breaker. If you value honesty, then lying or withholding truth cannot be allowed in your inner circle. The clearer you are on your values, the easier it becomes to spot when someone is crossing the line. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming boundaries are understood without ever being expressed. They think it's obvious that I don't like being spoken to that way, or they should know this is too much. But the truth is, if you don't communicate your boundaries clearly, toxic people will pretend they don't exist. You have to say it out loud. You have to be willing to say, I'm not comfortable with that, or if this continues, I will have to remove myself from the situation. Boundaries are not meant to be hints. They are meant to be explicit. But even more important than setting boundaries is enforcing them. A boundary that isn't enforced is just a suggestion. And toxic people thrive on suggestions because they can easily ignore them. If you tell someone, I won't allow you to speak to me that way, but then you stay in the conversation when they do it again, you've shown them that your words have no weight. Boundaries only work when there are consequences for crossing them. And those consequences have to be consistent. If you say you will hang up, leave, or stop engaging, you have to follow through every single time. Here's where most people struggle. Enforcing boundaries will often trigger pushback. Toxic people don't like losing control. So when you draw a line, they may try to guilt trip you, accuse you of being selfish, or make you feel like you're overreacting. They may become more aggressive in the short term because they're used to getting their way. This is the moment when your boundaries must be unshakable. If you crumble at the first sign of resistance, you teach them that all they have to do is push harder. Your firmness teaches them that you cannot be manipulated into lowering your guard. Boundaries aren't only about saying no to toxic behaviors, they're also about saying yes to what you need. You have to create space for rest, reflection, and connection with people who lift you up. That means limiting the time and energy spent on people who drain you, even if that means disappointing them. You cannot be everything to everyone and still have something left for yourself. A strong boundary is you deciding, I will not sacrifice my mental health for someone else's comfort. Physical boundaries matter too. Sometimes protecting yourself means not just changing the conversation, but changing the environment. If a toxic coworker corners you at your desk, you can physically step away. If a family member starts an argument during a gathering, you can leave the room. Your physical presence is valuable, and you have every right to remove it from situations where it is being disrespected. There's also a subtle but powerful aspect to boundaries. They teach people how to treat you. When you consistently uphold your standards, you send a clear message. This is the level of respect required to be in my life. And those who cannot or will not meet that standard will eventually fall away. That might feel like loss at first, but it's actually a filter that leaves you surrounded only by people who value and respect you. Boundaries do not make you cold or unkind. They make you strong and self-aware. You can love people and still refuse to tolerate harmful behavior. You can forgive someone and still decide they don't get the same access to you as before. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from anger. Boundaries are about keeping yourself safe from repeat harm. The two can exist together. Sometimes the most difficult boundaries to set are with the people closest to us. Family, partners, and long-term friends can be the hardest to limit because of history and emotional ties. But closeness does not give someone the right to treat you poorly. In fact, the people closest to you should be the most respectful of your boundaries, not the ones who ignore them. You do not owe unlimited access to anyone simply because of the role they play in your life. And then there's the boundary you must set with yourself, the decision to no longer negotiate with your own well-being. How many times have you thought, it's not that bad, just to avoid confrontation? Or convinced yourself to give someone one more chance even after repeated harm? Self-boundaries mean holding yourself accountable to act when your limits are crossed. They mean refusing to tolerate behavior that you know deep down is wrong, even when your emotions are tangled. Over time, strong boundaries create a powerful shift in your life. You stop feeling like you're constantly defending yourself and start living from a place of calm control. You're no longer drained from endless emotional battles because you've made it clear there is a line and it will be respected. And perhaps most importantly, boundaries don't just keep toxic people out. They create a safe, healthy space for the right people to come in. When your boundaries are unshakable, you're no longer afraid of losing people by standing up for yourself. You understand that anyone who walks away because you refuse to be mistreated was never a loss to begin with. Your life becomes lighter, your relationships healthier, and your energy is spent on what truly matters. And in a world full of people who will take as much as you allow, there is nothing smarter, stronger, or more freeing than deciding for yourself where the line is drawn and making sure it stays there. Silence is not weakness. Distance is not avoidance. Both are strategic tools, and when you use them intentionally, they can be some of the most effective ways to deal with toxic people. The reality is toxic individuals feed on reactions. They need engagement, drama, and emotional pushback to keep their control alive. They know exactly how to provoke you, and they count on the fact that you'll take the bait. But what happens when you stop giving them what they crave? What happens when your voice goes quiet, your presence becomes scarce, and you no longer play their game? You take away their oxygen. Silence has power because it disrupts the toxic cycle. Most toxic exchanges follow a pattern. They do something to provoke, you react, they respond with more manipulation, and the cycle repeats. By staying silent, you break that loop. You deny them the emotional food they've been feeding on. This doesn't mean you ignore important conversations or refuse to stand up for yourself. It means you choose not to respond to provocations designed solely to upset you. It means you learn the difference between responding to resolve an issue and reacting to feed their ego. There's a technique often called gray rocking, making yourself as emotionally uninteresting as a rock. When dealing with someone toxic, this means you respond in neutral, bland ways that give them nothing to work with. Instead of arguing or explaining, you might simply say, "Okay," or "I see." You keep your voice calm, your expression neutral, and your energy detached. Over time, this drains their interest in targeting you because they can't get the rise out of you they want. But silence isn't just about words. It's about refusing to participate in their drama altogether. If they try to bait you into gossip, you change the subject. If they send you a message dripping with passive aggressiveness, you don't respond right away. Or at all. If they blow up in a rage, you calmly walk away instead of matching their volume. Toxic people thrive on chaos, and when you remove your participation, the chaos loses momentum. Distance is the other side of this strategy, and it's just as crucial. While silence is about your immediate response in the moment, distance is about the space you create over time. This can mean limiting how often you see or speak to them, cutting back on the personal information you share, or removing yourself entirely from certain situations. You don't have to announce it. You don't need a dramatic confrontation. You simply begin to step back and redirect your focus elsewhere. Distance is powerful because it allows you to think clearly. When you're constantly in someone's presence, it's easy to get caught up in their emotional weather. Their moods become your moods. Their crises become your crises. Stepping back creates a gap between their chaos and your clarity. In that gap, you can evaluate the relationship for what it truly is without the constant noise clouding your judgment. One of the most common fears people have about using silence and distance is that it will make them look weak or passive. But in reality, it's the opposite. It takes immense strength to resist the urge to respond when you're provoked. It takes discipline to not explain yourself over and over to someone who has no intention of understanding you. And it takes courage to step away from people who have been part of your life for a long time, even when you know they're harming you. Silence and distance are not acts of surrender. They are acts of self-control. There's also a misconception that these strategies mean you're cutting someone off entirely. In some cases, yes, the healthiest choice is no contact. But in others, especially when you must maintain some connection, like with a family member or coworker, it's about minimizing their influence. You can still be polite, still be professional, and still keep your boundaries intact. The key is not allowing them the access to affect you emotionally. When you use silence and distance effectively, something interesting happens. Toxic people often escalate at first. They may try harder to get your attention. They might start rumors, send more messages, or push your buttons in new ways. This is because they're losing their grip on you, and they don't like it. But if you remain consistent, calm, quiet, and unavailable for their games, their influence over you will fade. Eventually, they'll have to look elsewhere for the reaction they can no longer get from you. It's important to remember that silence and distance are not about punishing the other person. They're about protecting yourself. This is not revenge, it's preservation. You are choosing to guard your mental and emotional space so you can invest your energy where it actually matters. You're shifting the power back to yourself by deciding what and who gets your attention. And here's the thing, once you master the art of strategic silence and distance, you start to realize you don't need to win arguments or prove toxic people wrong. You don't need to convince them to see things your way or change their behavior. Your peace doesn't depend on their cooperation. You simply stop engaging, step back, and live your life without their chaos in the center of it. Over time, you'll notice that the silence you once feared becomes peaceful. The distance you once resisted becomes freedom. You'll see how much more mental space you have when you're not replaying toxic conversations in your head. You'll feel lighter, calmer, and more in control, not because the toxic person has changed, but because you have changed how you respond to them. Toxic people will always exist. They will always look for someone to pull into their storm. But when you understand the power of silence and the strength in distance, you become untouchable. They can yell, manipulate, and provoke all they want, but without your participation, it's just noise. And when you stop showing up to the battle, they keep trying to start. You've already won. Your energy is your most valuable asset. It determines how you think, how you feel, and how you show up in the world. And yet, most people give it away carelessly to situations that don't matter, to arguments that go nowhere, and to people who drain more than they give. If you want to outsmart toxic people, you have to master the skill of protecting and elevating your own energy. Because here's the truth. The more you invest in yourself, the less room there is for their influence. Toxic people operate like energy thieves. They pull you into their drama, drain you with constant negativity, and keep you emotionally off balance, so you can't focus on your own growth. Their goal isn't just to take your attention in the moment, it's to keep you from having the mental and emotional bandwidth to pursue the things that matter. That's why protecting your energy isn't optional, it's essential. Every ounce of energy you spend on them is energy you don't spend building yourself. The first step in protecting your energy is to become selective about who gets access to you. Not everyone who wants your time deserves it. Just because someone is persistent, loud, or familiar doesn't mean they have earned the right to be close to you. You have to think of your attention like prime real estate. It's limited and valuable. You wouldn't let just anyone walk into your home and rearrange your furniture. So why let just anyone walk into your mind and rearrange your emotions? Protecting your energy also means taking ownership of your emotional environment. That's about more than avoiding toxic people. It's about deliberately surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, encourage you, and challenge you in healthy ways. When you spend time with those who are positive, driven, and respectful, your own energy rises to meet theirs. But when you keep toxic people in your circle, your energy drops to match their negativity. It's impossible to soar when you're constantly being pulled back down. Another critical part of energy protection is learning to say no without guilt. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something that could have fueled you. Toxic people are masters at making you feel selfish for prioritizing yourself. They'll twist your boundaries into insults, saying things like, "You've changed," or "You think you're too good for us now." But the truth is, protecting your energy is the opposite of selfishness. It's self-preservation. You can't pour into others if you're running on empty. Once you've protected your energy from being drained, the next step is to elevate it. This is where you focus on habits, environments, and mindsets that strengthen you from the inside out. It might mean investing in your physical health with exercise, rest, and proper nutrition. It might mean creating time for hobbies that bring you joy and creativity. It might mean practicing gratitude daily, so you train your mind to look for the good instead of obsessing over the bad. Elevating your energy is also about feeding your mind with things that build you. If you constantly consume negativity, whether it's from toxic people, the news, or social media, your energy will reflect that. But when you fill your mind with learning, inspiration, and positivity, you create a buffer against the draining effects of toxic influences. Your inner strength becomes harder to shake because it's being fueled consistently. One of the most powerful ways to elevate your energy is to have a clear sense of purpose. Purpose acts like an internal compass. It gives your life direction and meaning, and it makes it harder for toxic people to distract you. When you know what you're working toward, you're less likely to get pulled into petty conflicts or emotional traps. You can look at their behavior and think, I don't have time for this, because your focus is on something bigger. Protecting and elevating your energy also requires rest. And not just physical rest, emotional rest. That means stepping away from constant stimulation, unplugging from toxic conversations, and giving yourself space to breathe. Toxic people thrive in chaos. They want you too tired to think clearly. But when you rest, reflect, and recharge, you come back stronger and less reactive. It's important to realize that elevating your energy is not a one-time thing. It's a daily choice. You can't control whether toxic people will try to drain you, but you can control whether you keep refilling your own tank. Some days that might mean exercising discipline to walk away from an argument. Other days, it might mean scheduling time with people who make you feel alive. And sometimes it's as simple as taking a quiet moment to remind yourself that your peace matters more than their approval. Over time, something amazing happens when you commit to this process. Toxic people start to lose interest in you. They can feel the shift. You're no longer available for their games. Your energy is no longer something they can tap into on demand. And because you're building yourself up from the inside, you become less affected by the negativity around you. Their words don't cut as deep. Their manipulations don't land the same way. You've made yourself a high-value target. They can no longer reach. The smartest way to deal with toxic people isn't to fight them directly. It's to make yourself so strong, so focused, and so energized that they can't touch you. When you protect your energy, you stop feeding their control. When you elevate your energy, you start living a life that has no space for their chaos. And the most powerful part is this: the energy you invest in yourself will spill over into every part of your life. Your relationships will improve. Your work will improve. Your happiness will improve. Toxic people will still exist. They'll still try to pull you in. But when your energy is guarded and growing, you'll look at their attempts and realize they no longer have the power they once did. You won't have to explain it. You won't have to announce it. The change will be obvious to them and to you. You've built something worth protecting, and you've made it untouchable. At the end of the day, outsmarting toxic people isn't about out-yelling them, out-arguing them, or even proving them wrong. It's about becoming so grounded, so aware, and so committed to your own growth that their chaos can't touch you. You've learned to recognize the red flags early so you never get trapped in their games. You've taken control of your emotional investment, refusing to pour your heart and mind into someone who only takes without giving back. You've built unshakable boundaries that act as a fortress around your peace. You've mastered the power of strategic silence and distance, removing yourself from their reach without wasting your breath. And most importantly, you've protected and elevated your energy, the very life force that drives everything you do. Toxic people thrive on reaction. They feed on your frustration, your confusion, and your exhaustion. But when you refuse to play their game, when you choose clarity over chaos, you strip them of their power. You stop being the easy target they once thought you were. You become someone they can no longer manipulate because your worth is no longer up for negotiation. This is the moment you decide that your peace is more valuable than their approval. This is when you stop letting them rent space in your mind and start building a life where they have no key, no access, no influence. They may still talk, they may still try, but you will have moved beyond the reach of their noise. Remember this: silence can be louder than words. Distance can be stronger than confrontation. And self-respect will always be your sharpest weapon. You don't need to destroy them to win. You win by rising so high they can't follow. You win by building yourself into someone so strong, so focused, and so fulfilled that their chaos feels like nothing more than a faint echo in the distance. Your power is in your choices. Protect it, guard it, and never ever hand it back to those who try to break you. The greatest revenge on a toxic person is not proving them wrong. It's living in a way that makes them irrelevant. And starting today, that's exactly what you're going to do.